And crazier, 18 of those 22 games featured Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. But the most revealing evidence of the now dubbed Caitlin Clark effect is the fact that WNBA viewership has nearly caught up with NBA viewership in 2024. Throughout the game, they drew in nearly 19 million viewers, a number that shattered every NCAA women's.
The harsh truth about Caitlin Clark. Without wasting any more time, guys, let's get straight into it.
Some athletes are good. Some athletes are great. But very rarely does an athlete make such an impact that they begin to transcend their sport. You know, those times where an athlete is creating so much buzz that people who don't even follow the sport know their name. These athletes hardly ever come around. But when they do, you know something special is going on. Growing up, I used to skate, so of course I know who Tony Hawk is. But my mom also knows who Tony Hawk is. In a sport that tends to only retain the most die-hard fans, Usain Bolt was so incredible that he became a household name. And it also helped that his name sounds like he was destined to be the fastest man of all time. Ask the average person to name any golfer, and they'll instantly say Tiger Woods, followed by no one else. There are very few athletes that reach this level of popularity, where they almost single-handedly lift their sport to new heights. And right now, women's basketball is home to an athlete that may just be next in line to be one of these transcendent athletes. Caitlin.
Facts. I think Jimmy hit it in the know with this one. I've been saying this about Caitlin for a long time, and if you want to just very quickly understand what we're talking about, if you don't know who Caitlin Clark is and if you don't know what the WNBA is, a year ago I was one of those people criticizing the WNBA, and right now the WNBA, not that it became the best league in the world all of a sudden, but because of this player, because of how great she is and how many eyes she puts on the sport, now look at us. It completely changed the way we view the WNBA and the way we interact with it. And then you look, for example, what's happened now is a bit of a sad thing, but it's the truth. It's what's been happening. If you don't know, a lot of new WNBA fans they'll know this or they won't know this, but the Fever, so Caitlin Clark's team, just got out of the playoffs, and the ratings and the viewership for the WNBA just completely plummeted. It just went down, you know, and it just goes to show that the impact that one player can have. And this is why I really like Jimmy's example here. Like you're talking about people that have really transcend the sport, whether it is Serena Williams, whether it is Michael Phelps, whether it is Michael Jordan or Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, whether it's Tom Brady. We're talking about the greatest of all time, guys that really and truly going to represent what the sport really is about. In a way, because sports are about so many things. And with Caitlin, we're seeing the same thing, and it's the beginning stages. And the thing about Caitlin is as good as we thought she was. She's not the best player in the WNBA. I don't think she's going to be the best player for some time, because she's still got some time. She's still got some developing to do, especially when it comes to turnovers. But we thought she was going to come in the league and be extremely influential and even dominate. She done exactly that. And anyone that tells you that she hasn't done that is lying to you. So she is as good as we thought she was. And the best thing is that there's still room for improvement. But let's carry on.
Caitlin Clark has only been in the WNBA for one season, and she is already the face of the league, drawing in more fans, viewers, money than ever before. But it hasn't come without harsh criticism, some of it targeted at the disproportionate admiration and attention being given to just one player, and some of this criticism claiming she simply isn't nearly as dominant as we are led to believe.
Simple jealousy. Hey, let's call a spade a spade. There's simple jealousy. And I kind of understand where all of these other players are coming from. I'm not going to be too harsh on them. I understand the jealousy that's going on in the WNBA. But even then, it's like everything that's going on with Caitlin is just great for sport. You look at the pinnacle moments in sports, or where these new athletes came in the league. You look at Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. You look at Michael Phelps when he began to rack up gold medals in the Olympics. You look at Usain Bolt, the example that Jimmy gave earlier on. is they put so many eyes on the sport that to hate them is just silly, because because of how because of how successful Caitlyn is, everyone else also gets to, in a sense, bite off that fame a little bit. I just feel like they should use it, like Angel and Cameron Brink are using it, for example. Not it's just hitting on a it's just hitting on the same keynote over and over again. I won't get too much into it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Well, let's carry on.
A product of the sports media machine pushing their golden child. Is Caitlin Clark really as good as advertised? Or have her talents been overblown for the sake of the WNBA and the future of women's basketball?
And I want to personally...
She's better than advertised. She is better than advertised, and as I've said so far in this video, because it's only her first season, there's so much more room for improvement. She's not the best player in the league yet. It's going to take some time, but because of how young she is and the fact that it is her first season, there's so much room for improvement, and that's extremely exciting.
We thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport.
This year, the women of the NCAA Basketball Championship accomplished something completely unprecedented. Throughout the game, they drew in nearly 19 million viewers, a number that shattered every NCAA women.
And this is what we're talking about. As even someone that is in the sport right now as an athlete, how can you look at these numbers and be upset? How can you look at these numbers and feel some type of way? If I was playing the WNBA and I saw that the young players were bringing in this amazing or just enormous amount of viewership, I'd be extremely happy, and I would, bring them on board and be and serve as guidance for them. We're seeing the opposite. Is they see that these older players, they're seeing these younger players bringing in all this viewership and excitement into the league, and they're trying to put it down. And I think that's just it's a horrible mistake, even from a business perspective. The sport is growing. Let's embrace these young players. No, the sport is growing. Let's hate on these young players. It's so dumb.
Women's record exceeded the viewership of any men's tournament game over the last half decade, and even surpassed every single NBA Finals game since 2018. The game
That is amazing. That is amazing.
Was a groundbreaking spectacle, with people who had never even tuned into a single basketball game in their life turning on the TVs to see who would be crowned champions. The majority of this flocking attributed to one player, Caitlin Clark. Her unbelievable range and record-breaking performances proving to be must-watch TV. The true testament of her greatness and impact, all of the doubt and borderline detest that quickly followed her ascent. Some fans and players, both past and present, questioning if her talents would translate to the next level and if the horde of fans she inspired would follow. They did. Her WNBA debut attracted the most viewers of any...
I love Jimmy, bro. I love Jimmy. And I feel like, in a way, that's the most impressive thing about Caitlyn, because when she first came in the league, I was scared too. I didn't think, not that she wasn't going to be as good as before, like in the long run, but from the jump, like you look at what she's done this season, especially like since the Olympics. Oh, she's been outstanding. She's been outstanding.
WNBA game in the history of ESPN. Indiana's home game attendance jumped from an average of 4,000 fans last season to an average of over 17,000 fans this season, a more than 400% increase in just a single year. Transactions in the Fever's team store jumped over 700%, and WNBA viewership has skyrocketed to levels that even Clark's biggest advocates could not foresee. Game 4 of...
Let's stop, because this is something as NBA fans, we've been criticizing the WNBA, the lot of WNBA players over the past few years, because they used to complain about how much money they were making, but really and truly, they couldn't really do much because the viewership was always down. If we pause it right here, these numbers are so crazy. These numbers are insane, and this is what I mean by every single player on the WNBA should be on board. Even if you don't like Caitlin, let's say you hate Caitlin Clark, you should still be on board. It's going to help you. It's going to help your family because you're going to be able to make more money. It's going to help. It's going to help everyone around the sport. Everyone is going to benefit from this. You've got content creators like myself making more content about this. I'm a very small content creator, but in a sense, because I'm making content about this, a lot of my fans, my football fans that watch this channel, they're also going to get into the WNBA. It's a machine that just keeps on growing and growing and growing. These numbers is more than double. It's more than double. Oh my days. You just have to be on board with this.
Advocates could not foresee. Game 4 of last year's WNBA Finals drew in more viewers than any WNBA game over the last 2 decades, with 728,000 fans tuning in for the game, living up to the hype as one of the most anticipated games in the history of the league. This season, there were 22 regular season games that eclipsed that mark, 21 of them drawing in over 1 million viewers. Even
And the only reason why this is so crazy, because again, a very good example we have in sports is the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird coming into the league, into the NBA, excuse me, and the impact that had. We're seeing something extremely similar right now. I'm just happy to be able to witness how a league, not sports, but how a league is being transformed. If I had a lot of money, if I was an investor, I'll be pouring so much money right now into the WNBA. I'll be pouring in so much money right now into the WNBA because this stock is just going to keep on growing and growing and growing. Wait until like Caitlin Clark is running for an MVP. It's going to be even bigger. I promise you, next year, with nothing happening, just next year, the viewership is going to grow from this.
And crazier, 18 of those 22 games featured Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. But the most revealing evidence of the now dubbed Caitlin Clark effect is the fact that WNBA viewership has nearly caught up with NBA viewership in 2024. On ESPN, NBA games averaged 1.56 million viewers this past season. WNBA games averaged 1.2 million viewers, a number that was inconceivable just a couple years ago. But Caitlin Clark...
A couple years ago, a couple months ago. I say, if you told me this, if you told me that the WNBA were going to be averaging even just close to the viewership that the NBA was averaging, myself and any fan will call you stupid. That's how insane that concept or that idea is. It just didn't make any sense last year. I'm talking about last year, October. But the reality right now is, because now let's also put into perspective, because the league, not just Caitlin, but the league and the WNBA, it has improved a lot. It has improved a lot. But nonetheless, because of Caitlin Clark's impact, you're seeing how much the sport has grown to even be in the same conversation with the with the NBA. Excuse me. This is extremely, how do you say, inspiring.
Soaring popularity has been a point of contention for many fans of the WNBA, frustrated that in a league that is bursting with talent right now, it's all just being overlooked for the poster child of women's basketball. Do Caitlin's abilities actually warrant the hype? In just her rookie season, Caitlin broke over a dozen league and franchise records, including the WNBA's single-season assist record. She set the record for the most assists in a single game. She received the most all-star votes of any player in WNBA history, set a new league record for double-doubles by a guard in a single season, scored the most points of any rookie in league history, and became the first rookie in WNBA history to put up a triple-double. Just this past week, it was announced that
How is that not dominating? Please explain to me how that is not dominating. Oh my God, come on. Come on now. Let's be serious. Let's be serious now.
Caitlin made first team All WNBA, which makes her the first rookie to make first team All League since Candace Parker did it 16 years ago. Turns out those awe-inspiring performances from her days in college did in fact translate to the pros. Because even against the best defense in the world, she is pretty much an offensive cheat code. Throughout her rookie season, with points and assists, Clark generated 45.2% of all points produced by the Indiana Fever. For perspective, she has a larger offensive load than every single player in the NBA last season, outside of Luka Doncic. And she's a rookie. But to really understand...
And now, like, this is the other thing. This is when we're talking about Caitlin Clark. I don't want to just talk about the politics and her impact. It's very cool to look at those numbers. But genuinely, because I've made about this is like the third video on Caitlin Clark. But when you actually watch her play, when you actually watch a game, it is a beautiful thing to watch. And my favorite player in the NBA right now is Luka Doncic. I just love to watch Luka. And as we've seen, the way some of these players are able to carry an offense, as a fan, I just love to see that. I also love to see team basketball, but I also love to see a player just take the ball and just dominate, whether it is with creating for their teammates or just being able to score the ball at will. I love that. I just love watching Caitlin play.
And Caitlin's unparalleled offensive prowess. Here are the 200 most productive offensive seasons in WNBA history on a scale of points generated per game. And among these seasons, you'll find the greatest players in the league's history. Lisa Leslie, Tamika Catchings, Cheryl Swoops, Candace Parker, and Angel McCoughtry have tons of seasons littered throughout this chart. Climb towards the top and you'll find seasons from Asia Wilson and Cynthia Cooper. But with 4 of the top 10 most productive offensive seasons in WNBA history is Diana Taurasi, her 2006 campaign being the best of them all, producing 33.9 points per game. And then there's Caitlin Clark, who is...
Bro, this stat alone ends everything. I am sorry. What? Bro. What? This stat alone, look at the gap. That's a 5 points. Oh my days. This is generating on average 5 points per game extra. This is why I love Jimmy, because, you know, I can make these reactions and we can talk about how great these players are, but what Jimmy does, let's shout out to Jimmy, bro. What Jimmy does, the analytical side of things, Jimmy is my favorite sports content creator. It's between Jimmy and Mark Gorbridge, really, but that's a conversation for another day. Wow, this stat is crazy.
Is already the most potent offensive player in the history of the WNBA in her rookie season. Women's Hoops has never seen a player like this. And as absurd as her numbers are, how she puts up these numbers is just as incredible. Here are the players who attempt the longest three-pointers on average in the NBA last season, with Trae Young leading the league with the deepest three-point attempts with an average distance of 27.94 feet, and Damian Lillard and Stephen Curry just a shade closer. Despite it still being worth the same amount of points, the longest shooters in the NBA are stepping 4 feet outside the three-point line on their attempts. But even amongst the deepest shooters in the world, Caitlin Clark is on her own island, because throughout the 2024 regular season, her average three-point distance was 28.1 feet, which is not only further than any player in the NBA and in the WNBA, it is a whopping 6 feet out from the WNBA three-point line. Has Caitlin Clark been worth all the attention and hype that has engulfed her over the last 2 years? Yeah, I'd say so. She didn't just...
Right now, Caitlin is worth her the impact she's had and the quality of play she's having on court. She's worth her weight in gold. Is amazing as a sports fan, because I love watching F1, I love watching UFC, football, basketball, you name it. I love seeing people that perform at the highest level and just dominate. And this is why I'm such a big Caitlyn fan. I'm also a big Max Verstappen fan. I'm also a big Mbappe fan. Caitlyn is in that mix. And I'm so grateful to have a player this good, and I'm just able to just witness it firsthand. I'll be able to tell my kids about this. You know, this is why I hate when people hate on her. But we'll done.
Have a successful rookie season. She had one of the best rookie seasons in recent basketball history. And this isn't just to her benefit, but the benefit of the entire WNBA. Because the seismic boost in the WNBA's popularity this season is not limited to those turning on the games to see what she'll do next. It can also be found in the fans actually showing up to the games. Looking at a chart of the average attendance of WNBA games since the inception of the league in 1997 will tell you a story of a league that has seen their fair share of good days and bad ones. In 1997, there were only 8 WNBA teams, all with really healthy attendance numbers due to the excitement of a new women's league. The league quickly expanded to 16 teams with a handful of teams emerging as fan favorites, like the Washington Mystics, the Phoenix Mercury, and the LA Sparks. But with a massive league expansion came a nearly equal retraction. Many teams folding along the way, such as the Soul, Fire, Miracle, and Sting. But it wasn't until COVID where the league's once steady fan base was wiped out. In 2020, there were no fans in attendance due to COVID protocols, and when play resumed in 2021, attendance was at an all-time low. A number that has been quickly rising in the few years since the pandemic, but has specifically seen an explosion this season, where for the first time, league attendance was higher than the WNBA's inaugural season. The Indiana Fever seeing the highest attendance numbers in league history, nearly selling out every single home game. In a league where attracting the casual fan has been a seemingly insurmountable task, Caitlin Clark has defied the odds by not only drawing in new fans for her and her team, but rising the tides for the entire league. This is completely unprecedented, at least in the WNBA it is. But there was a time when the NBA was facing similar struggles until a pair of players showed up and changed everything. After the success,
this is where you begin to look at Caitlyn, at least from a sports fan's perspective, and you're like, okay, there's a pattern here. You look, how can I put this? The stardom, for example, in F1 that Lewis Hamilton brought to the sport of F1, because Formula 1 has been big for a long time, but having a star, a personality like Lewis Hamilton has definitely helped to grow the sport. And then the rivalry he's had with Max Verstappen recently has definitely helped to boost Formula 1. You look at Ronaldo and Messi, and you know, in that prime, it's like the world of football stopped for those El Clasicos. I'm not saying Caitlyn is at that level yet, but she's working towards that. She's working towards having that massive impact, and as Jimmy's saying, where even the casual fans will very easily turn on to watch Caitlyn play just whenever, just because it's Caitlyn. So now imagine when Caitlyn is going for championships, when she's in the finals, just the massive improvement that there will be in viewership. Imagine when she's fighting for MVPs. There's so much potential right now in the WNBA. It's extremely hopeful time for the league right now.
Success of the Celtics in the 1960s, the NBA's growth in popularity had come to a grinding halt in the 70s. The league had a rampant drug problem. An emerging rival league known as the ABA was picking up steam, and the NBA didn't really have a face to propel the league into the next decade. Jerry West was on his way out. Kareem was incredible, but he didn't really have the personality or charm that fans gravitate towards. Bill Walton's prime was cut short due to injuries, and many fans felt Julius Erving's introduction to the league after leaving the ABA in 1976 was a bit short of what was advertised. Many games were lucky to see even half capacity in attendance. Many teams were losing money. The NBA had fallen to a, quote, second-tier sport behind the NFL, MLB, and NHL. All of this culminating to the point where some networks infamously had NBA Finals games on tape delay in the late 70s due to low ratings. The league was in desperate need of a generational, transcendent superstar. Lucky for them, they got two Coming off the most popular rivalry in the history of college basketball, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson propelled the league to new heights in the 80s, transforming the NBA from a second-rate league into a behemoth of sports and entertainment. A tandem that many longtime NBA fans say.
And we'll stop right there because this is where a lot of people lose the plot. Sports is meant to entertain us. At the end of the day, we watch sports because it is entertaining. And with Caitlyn, as we've said this before sometimes, even in those reactions that we made to where we were just watching her play, when you watch her play, the things she's doing, as Jimmy said, she's taking threes further than anyone, even compared to the NBA. Her game is so exciting. It entertains fans, and that's why we're able to sit down and watch her and just be there all the time, which increases the league's viewership and rating and etc. But that first comes from entertainment, and this is exactly what she's doing.
Saved the NBA. Now, this isn't to say Caitlyn is the second coming of two of the greatest, most important figures in the history of basketball, but her impact on the sport at such an early
It's not that far off to say, bro. Not to say she will have the same career as Magic and Larry Bird, for example, because Magic and Larry Bird between themselves they have MVPs, they have final MVPs, they've got championships, they've got scoring titles, they've got assist titles. There's still a long way for Caitlyn to go in terms of that, but in terms of just impact right now, I don't think it's very far off to say that.
Stage in her career has reached a level reminiscent of some of the most influential athletes of all time relative to their sport. Because her popularity hasn't just affected her, it has had a cascading effect on players across the entire WNBA. Clark has essentially become the gateway to NBA fandom for many people. They come to witness the phenomenon that she is and end up staying once they see just how awesome the league and its players are. Players around the league are signing groundbreaking endorsement deals. Teams now have their own planes and new facilities. Many WNBA players have become household names, some of the most recognizable figures in sports today. There is real, genuine discourse about the games and the players right now that exists beyond the diehard fans. Conversations about the WNBA are now no longer about the legitimacy of the league itself, but instead about its players, records being broken, rivalries, the playoffs, title hopes, the draft, and up-and-coming prospects. It's understandable that Caitlyn's explosion in popularity has caused a lot of tension. Why is she getting all the attention when there's tons of great players around the league doing great things? The answer to that question? Well, it depends on who you ask. But there's no denying the widespread impact Clark has made on the league in just a single season. For years, players in the WNBA pushed for people to give their talents and their skills and the product a chance. And in record numbers, people finally are. Now, what it took to get them to tune in may not be the most ideal circumstance, where for many casual fans, one player is overshadowing the vast majority of an entire league, but it's 1,000 steps in the right direction. Whether the Caitlyn Clark effect will have a lasting impact on the league and retain these new viewers and fans and continue to draw in more in the future is something that only time will tell. But one season in, and she is on a path to being one of the very few truly game-changing athletes of her generation. And yes, she's got all the talent to back it up.
As per usual, amazing video from Jimmy. I'll leave the link to Jimmy's channel in the description if you go and watch. Please subscribe to Jimmy. As I said before, Jimmy's my favorite sports content creator. That's why I had to make a reaction on Jimmy and on Caitlyn, which are like my two favorite things right now in sports. I appreciate you guys for watching, and as per usual, I'll see you soon.